Did you know that a staggering 51% or more of global greenhouse gas emissions are caused by animal agriculture? In fact, raising animals for food generates more greenhouse gases than all the cars and trucks in the world combined. What if I told you that it takes 660 gallons of water to produce one hamburger, while it only takes 180 gallons of water to produce a whole pound of whole wheat flour? And are you aware that the meat, egg, and dairy industries account for a majority 65% of our worldwide nitrous oxide emissions? When I initially went vegan and stopped eating meat and animal products, I had no idea the positive effects that it would have on the environment. I simply felt better and performed better. But since then, I've read many articles online and different studies and watched a few different documentaries about the benefits that going vegan has on our environment. I learned that adopting a vegan diet is essential in solving many of our Earth's current and growing problems, and I was shocked to find out that simply not eating meat or animal products would be more beneficial for the environment than if we were to all take shorter showers and stop watering our lawns. With climate change being the first threat to our Earth that we're constantly reminded of, it's time for us to start taking better care of our planet. This is why I'm going to tell you how adopting a vegan diet can reduce your ecological footprint regarding climate change, water usage, and land degradation. Now, I know that these topics may seem daunting or even extreme, but it's easy to see how each one is affected by the animal product industries when we look a little bit further. First, we must establish that climate change has in fact been described as our planet's first and initial problem. If you don't believe me, here are a few reports that might change your mind. According to the United Nations Climate Change Report of 2014, titled Impacts, Adaptation, and Vulnerability, climate change is having an impact on every continent, affecting our agriculture, our human health, our ecosystems, water supplies, and even people's livelihoods. Needless to say, these impacts are not in our favor. To find the solution to this ever-growing problem, we must find out what the main contributors are. According to a report from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, over the course of 20 years, methane has 86 times more climate change potential than carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide has 268 more times of climate change potential. So how does this correlate to what we eat? In that same report from the United Nations, it informs us that raising animals for food produces more greenhouse gases, which come from methane and nitrous oxide, than all cars, boats, trucks, trains, and planes combined. So yes, in fact, cutting out meat of your diet can reduce your addition to the Earth's first threat significantly. To compare the effect of a vegan diet to the standard American diet, we may look at a study from Oxford University that was published in the journal Climate Change. The report shows us that meat eaters are responsible for almost 2.5 times as many dietary greenhouse gas emissions per day as vegetarians, and even more than that as many as vegans. The same report that shows that diets of people who eat more than 3.5 ounces of meat per day, which is about the size of a standard deck of cards, generates 15.8 pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent each day, whereas a vegan is responsible for only 6.4 pounds. Now, I know that not everyone's going to become vegan overnight, and I understand the hesitancy to do so, but when we have a problem as large as climate change and we know of a very likely possible deterrent, isn't it our responsibility to act in favor of our planet? If being able to curb climate change is too broad of a concept for right now, let's look at the effect that our diets have on something a little bit simpler, the water usage and supply of our planet. When we think about food, we typically don't think about the tools and things behind it being put on our plate. The amount of water used to produce meat is vastly larger than the amounts of foods like fruits, vegetables, legumes, and grains. According to Thirsty Food and National Geographic, agriculture is responsible for 70% of fresh water usage that we actually have access to. That means that more of our fresh water is going to the mouths of animals like cows, chickens, and pigs so that we can slaughter them for food later on. Where I currently live in Northern California, we are faced with a drought, We've been given a list of different guidelines for saving water, such as making sure that your pipes aren't leaking and taking shorter showers. If we were to follow these and all the other items on the list, we would be saving 47 gallons of water daily. While this is definitely a great improvement and would help our environment significantly, we should put this number into perspective. According to the documentary Cowspiracy, it does take 660 gallons of water to produce one hamburger. So, in hindsight, those 47 gallons of water that we saved haven't necessarily done the ultimate job if we stop by McDonald's on the way home to grab a hamburger for lunch. This documentary also mentions that it takes 1,000 gallons of water to produce one single gallon of milk. But don't these animals need to be given water? Yes, of course they do. However, if animals weren't mass-produced to meet the ever-growing demand of hamburger and bacon meat, the water crisis at hand wouldn't be so large. Because producing animal products requires significantly more water than plants, limiting or eliminating these products will help reduce our ecological footprint significantly. As the demand for animal products increases, so does the demand for land that those animals can be raised on. As we ponder this substantial growth in demand, we must think about the problems that this causes land degradation. According to a study from the United States Department of Agriculture, 2.5 acres of land are needed to raise a single cow. Livestock takes up a shocking 65% of Earth's total land, leaving only 55% for the 7.2 billion people on it. Does the Earth really have this much extra land supply readily available to farm cows, pigs, and chickens? Of course not. Nearly 1 to 2 acres of rainforest are cleared every second in order to make more room for animal agriculture. With numbers like this, it's not surprising that a majority, 91% of Amazon destruction is caused solely by this factor. Not only does this amount of livestock force workers to clear those forests, but it also results in the spread of a wide amount of pesticides, herbicides, and chemical fertilizers from the crops that end up in the water. These substances are often, like I said, leaked into the waterways, which are carried and kill off different water species. I hope it is clear now that immediate dangers that raising animals for food has on our planet, and more specifically on our rainforests and waterways. Now that we know of the effects that our creating and consuming animal products has on our environment, let's analyze our next step. As a population, we are solely responsible for the well-being of our planet. As I've talked about, going vegan will reduce your ecological footprint, specifically in regards to climate change, water usage, and land degradation. Now, I know that all of this information can be daunting, but there is good news. We can make the decision to help save our planet. Every time you sit down and you eat a plant-based meal over something that's filled with animal products, you are making a difference. Start taking the necessary steps in reducing your animal product intake so that we can sustain the earth that we've been so blessed with.